we're already spending 3.4% of US GDP on defense. Looks like we're going up to 6. The United States is already the #1 investor in defense in the world. So now this is a shell game, obviously. There's going to be no net cuts to anything with regard to the government. And how do we know that? What do we know will not be allowed to happen? A drop in US GDP. So again, we're seeing this shell game play out however it works. I mean, I'm not saying there's not fraud here. Obviously, there is massive fraud all over the place. It's interesting, some of the people that are investigating it, though. Guys like Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen, who just took down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau here. Andreessen, #1, not the greatest guy. People should do their own research on this kind of stuff as to what's happening. Andreessen actually blamed the Consumer Financial Protection Agency for terrorizing the banks. I've been trying to warn people about this, a massive deregulatory environment. The banks here must be deregulated to allow the system to move forward here in multiple ways. This isn't just one thing. The merging, obviously, of cryptocurrencies and the banks here, they're insolvent. The entire financial system operates in a perpetual black hole. The banks are getting a backdoor bailout here. And over the weekend, with the virtual shutting down of the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, they'd returned $17 billion to people who were wronged by the banks. Now, who are we going to complain to? President Trump, Musk? There's multiple things that people need to pay attention to with Bank of America. I've been talking about this bank for years. I think it's being set up as the fall guy for Wall Street. Trump did point this out at the World Economic Forum before the world, blaming this institution here for things which may or may not even actually be true. All of these banks are responsible for, whatever they are. Apparently Fox Business, Fox News did a report that they're, debanking conservative Republicans. Okay, maybe that is true, but their CEO is a conservative Republican. People can look this stuff up. CEOs of every corporation's profile is public knowledge. But the bottom line is, why is it being set up as the fall guy? Again, blame must be assigned. They know the system is being taken apart systematically, piece by piece, brick by brick, to issue us a new system here. And again, they're going to chop up Bank of America's assets. Eventually, what's going to happen here, the people are going to get the garbage, and the other Wall Street institutions are going to get the good assets here. All these banks are in a lot of trouble, and we're going to see a much greater consolidation of power moving forward, something I believe you and I have been speaking about for a very, very long time. The consolidation of power is key to the new system. How we're going to see just play out moving forward with regard to currency devaluation, artificially suppressed rates, and the higher cost of living for people around the world, not just here in the United States. And there's a bigger issue here in the United States, being that we still have the world reserve currency, the fact that the world today is moving away from the dollar, the inflationary environment we are in around the world, not just here in the United States. Central banks continue to buy it all. Why is it that central banks right now are the #1 buyers of gold, on top of being the #1 issuers and buyer of debt? Maybe people should really start to open their minds a little bit, and don't look where our politicians want you to look. It's a game. It's a grand deception. They don't want you to see things. They don't want you to pay attention to what's going on underneath it, or you can't be aware. Let's just look here in the United States. Let's look at industrial output. Let's look at factory activity. It's in contraction by their own numbers, man. Every part of this economy. And if you just want to look here at the United States, actually, the service sector is one that they're telling us is doing better than others. We've become a service economy, and we don't make anything anymore. We're not exporting anything. We're seeing debts and deficits balloon like we've never seen before. But I mean, look, economic output globally, let's just look at one factor. Economic activity based upon industrial output and factory activity everywhere around the world. It's diminishing, and we're losing. As a matter of fact, look at manufacturing here in the United States. Look at factory output here. We are net every month losing jobs in that sector because it's contracting. And meanwhile, at the same time, we're seeing global debt balloon. And on top of that, we're seeing currency devaluation continue to accelerate. It's not going to stop until a single world leader, one, finally steps up and says enough is enough. In other words, if Trump were to say, okay, we need much higher rates. Okay, we're not going back to a constitutional money system. This is the habit I have. I point back at that painting. That's the USS Constitution. Right? It's a habit I've developed here. But we're not going back to a constitutional money system. I think we're pretty much all on the same page. We could end central banking right here and right now by executive order. If Trump would say, no more fiat monetary system, we are returning back to a constitutional money system, we're going to revalue gold 50, 60, 70,000, we end the Fed right here. Federal Reserve ends, no audit needed. And that would would start a domino effect around the world with central banks. They would all fail. You take one central bank down, especially this one, the Fed, the central banking system ends. Or, since we know that's not going to happen, let's have much higher rates. Much higher rates would return purchasing power to the currency. No one's going to tell you that. You know this is to be true. Everyone with even the slightest understanding of finance realizes that this is a fact. Again, look, man, in finance and economics, there are literally just two fundamental truths. Number one, to have a strong economy, you need a strong currency. To have a strong currency, you need a corresponding rate of interest high enough to support the purchasing power of the currency. Why is it that people aren't told this stuff? Why is it just non-existent? And then there's a third factor, and that is cash always seeks yield. It moves into places where there's the most growth, basically, is what that comes down to. And that's why we've seen this incredible move here lately with regard to cryptocurrency. We're seeing a historic move here with regard to gold and silver as of late, as central banks are buying it all. Imagine a concept, seriously. Does this sound familiar to anybody who follows my work? Central banks are buying it all, buying all the debt, issuing debt, buying it back through another door, buying assets. And that's what we would find on the Federal Reserve's off-balance sheet. We would see more assets that they're investing in. I would be willing to bet almost anything that we, the people, will never be able to see the Federal Reserve off-balance sheet assets. Do you think that we, the people of the United States, should be privy to that information? Yeah, I think so. But they're going to put on a public show. Maybe the Fed will get audited here, which they've been audited already. Maybe we'll see some kind of a Doge audit of this thing. But is it going to be real? Are we going to get to see again the off-balance sheet investments or what they've done off-balance sheet? Or is it just going to be another public nonsensical freak show? People have no idea what's going on, how the system works. Why is the world today in the economic situation it's in now? It comes down to two things, which come down to one: artificially suppressed rates. Currency devaluation. This is a wrecking machine for the economy and the middle class. It's a massive way to transfer wealth up to the 1% and 2%ers, but people don't know that either. The system is being taken apart systematically and deliberately. This is not an accident. This is no comedy of errors why we are in the place that we are anywhere in the world. Being that we have the greatest threat to humankind right now being hyperinflated, and this is, of course, the global debt bubble, which is going to burst. We're going to end up in a credit freeze locking up situation, which was happening in 2008. Credit markets, the flow of credit through the markets was stopping. Pandemonium in the streets. They got to set up a fall guy to assign blame. Fall of Lehman, Bear, these were the sacrificial lambs last time. But what happened? Who really benefited from that? Wasn't we the people? We the people got all the garbage. We were forced to bail out the system. Those institutions were chopped up, and the good assets on their balance sheets were bought for pennies on the dollar by the other institutions. The same thing is going to happen here. The governments don't pay the tariffs. Who pays for this stuff? Well, it's obviously we the people. And how does that happen? The tariffs are paid by the importers and the exporters, and this increase in costs are passed on to the people. However, this can hurt business. There's no doubt about it. And that's what obviously the 1% and 2%ers don't want to see that. So it can be used as a bargaining chip. But I don't see this as a long-term way to fix the problem. Okay, we were told last time, and for people who don't believe what I'm saying, look it up. Trump's tariffs were going to pay off the deficit in, what was it, 2 years? Everything was going to be paid off. And we were told a lot of things. The tariffs were going to pay for this and pay for that, and they didn't pay for anything. What we did get, unfortunately, was skyrocketing debt. And we were also told, again, do your own research on this. I'm not calling the man out. I'm telling you what the facts are. And if you don't believe me, again, look it up for yourself. Open up another window. We were told that the trade deficit would shrink. The trade deficit ballooned to record highs. When a politician tells you things, don't just believe that that's the way it's going to be. Hold into account. Do your own research on this. Is Greg lying? Who really pays for the tariffs? Is it the governments, or is it the importers and exporters and those costs passed on to you? The bottom line is, the cost of living here in the United States is going to get much higher, not just via the mechanism of tariffs here, unfortunately, but via the mechanism of currency devaluation. It all plays together. We're under attack. This is an extinction level event on a global scale. They need to create dependency on the system as we are bridged into a cryptocurrency system, which is only a conduit into what everybody knows is coming. We're going into a fully tokenized system, and that drives me nuts. Because where's the pushback? People don't want it, but that's where we're going. But I don't see anyone, except maybe the people that follow our work, at least raising concern. And I think it's a very big concern because it's going to come down to power, a surrendering of rights and freedoms, privacy as well moving forward. Who owns 90% of the stock market? The 1% and 2%ers do. Not you and me. Maybe we have some cash in the stock market, but it's infinitesimal compared to the 1% and 2%ers here. But that's the wealth transfer effect. Shovel it into the market. And of course, what always happens is the 1% and 2%ers, they get out of the market before everybody else does. All right. I've been out of this market since the high of December 5th. I came out publicly telling people I'm out of this market. I nailed the top of this market to the wall. Let's see who else could pull that off. And I'm not back in here yet.